So especially with like jazz, there's like a lot of easy inspirations, but what's like one of the main inspirations for like your soloing style? Also, wait, I should start off with what instrument do you play?
I play trumpet.
Okay, yes. And then the question I said that was better.
Okay. My inspiration about my improv, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
I would have to go to. I've got so many trumpet players that I model after, but if I have to say one, I would say Terrence Blanchard.
Mm-hmm.
He is known for providing the movie soundtrack for Spike Lee movies.
Mm-hmm.
So School Days, Mo Better Blues. He actually played the trumpet as Denzel Washington moved his fingers, and so he provided the trumpet sound for that movie.
Oh, sorry. My bad. All good.
All good. All
Uh,
right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I haven't personally seen a lot of Spike Lee movies, but I'm aware of them,
Mhm.
and I know I probably should. My roommate's been telling me to watch School Days.
Yes.
Um, but like, is there anything that you would describe with like that style of like soloing? Like, is it like more spacious, or like what would you account to that?
Um, Terrence Blanchard's style is very melodic. He plays with a very warm tone. Part of that's due to the type of horn he uses. He uses a Monet trumpet, and it provides that natural, warm, velvety sound. And again, his playing style and his composition style is very melodic and singable. So
Mm-hmm.
that really kind of pulled me in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, this is, I think, kind of a fun question, but what do you think is your favorite jazz album?
Mm, Great question. I would have to say Miles Davis, kind of blue.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's a classic jazz album. I think it's, for a person just now getting into jazz and he wanted to know what jazz was about. Miles Davis, kind of blue, was a good album, if you will. Trying not to say CD because it came out on
Yeah.
LP on vinyl.
I have the vinyl in my room.
No vinyl?
I have the vinyl.
Oh, you have the vinyl.
I
Oh,
have
very
the
good.
vinyl. I have a few jazz records in my room right now, but I mean, I have a poster of, excuse my language, Bitches Brew hanging
Yeah.
like right above me right now.
Uh,
Um, but I think Kind of Blue is one of those albums where it just shapes what jazz is, and in that way, people view it retrospectively as basic, but for the time, it shaped what jazz would be synonymous with.
I agree. I feel like a lot of jazz musicians would listen to that and kind of base the foundation of their approach to jazz, improv, and composition from there
Mm-hmm.
and expand. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And well, I personally, I think I skew more towards like I think a Love Supreme by John Coltrane is more experimental, and I love the sound of it.
Hmm.
Or even a Black Saint Sinner Lady. I love, especially I think it's like track two. I forget the name of it because they're all dances. They're all named after dances, but that track it sounds like akin to rock, like the pulsing of the drums. I find that so addicting,
Hmm.
but I think it's important to recognize how it goes back to like Miles Davis.
Absolutely. Coltrane, again, he's another standard bearer of soloing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just the improv style is hard to duplicate. There's
Mm-hmm.
a video on YouTube that outlines his solo work on which track was that? Oh my gosh, they animated all the notes he played in the song, and I hate that my mind draws a blank right now, but
Mm-hmm.
it'll come back later. But he played so many notes, and someone went back and notated each one. So as the notes being played, you see them appearing on the screen.
Mm-hmm. That's I need to find that. That will be cool. Um, another kind of quick question, which is like, what is the landscape of like finding gigs or finding work within jazz?
Um, I guess locating the jazz venues in your area.
Mm-hmm.
Here in Indianapolis, we've got the Jazz Kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of a staple here in town, where it brings in national and international artists, and will as well as features local artists. There's also the Chatterbox and the Mousetrap and other places in your local area,
Mm-hmm.
and getting to know people who are looking for live music for their events. So I kind of made my name here in Indianapolis, Indiana, by way of playing for private events, cocktail hour, 50th birthdays, church anniversaries, things like that. And I'm able to kind of experiment and explore different types of music and share whatever the client wants at that moment. So if they
Mm-hmm.
want jazz, they want jazz standards. If they want another genre, we try to accommodate them with that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When jazz is discussed, it's often discussed in like the past tense of, the era of like Miles Davis, or even going back farther with, like the early blues and like all that stuff. But what are some modern artists you've been really liking? Modern jazz artists.
Modern jazz artists, as far as trumpet, Chris Bodie.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he's fairly recent, within the last 20 or so years. He's a graduate of my alma mater, Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana, and I
Mm-hmm.
think I missed him by about maybe 5 years. And but he plays a lot of smooth jazz, and he's another person that I kind of pattern my at least performance style after. He's very cool and calm on stage, and interacts with the audience and things like that. So he's someone that's fairly modern that I listen to.
Mm-hmm.
I listen to smooth jazz groups such as Spyro Gyra, the Yellow Jackets, um, Chick Corea, and these
Yeah.
are in the last, again, 20, 30 years. They've been around even longer than that, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think there is right now a kind of push against like that smooth jazz movement, especially with like an artist like a Kamasi Washington, Robert Glasper, which I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then also, strangely, Andre 3000, which I didn't love the flute album, but he'll do himself. I kind of just wish he was rapping.
Yeah. I'm a Robert Glasper fan. He's kind of a traditionalist.
Mm-hmm.
Love his music. I feel like he took what he learned from a conservatory
Mm-hmm.
standpoint, and incorporated things like neo soul and smooth jazz elements. So he's not all straight ahead jazz,
Mm-hmm.
but I think very much that's the foundation of his music. But he was able to really almost create a new genre with neo soul and jazz standards and so forth.
I had found him through like hip hop albums. So he was on one of my favorite records, "Mel My Eyes See Your Future" by Denzel Curry. But that's how I had like, not like, it's not like he was an underground artist. It's just I didn't really listen to much modern jazz.
Hmm.
Um,
There are a lot of modern jazz artists that are mainstream, and I think that's when we start thinking about underground artists, but they're just more of in their community.
mhm.
And so the jazz heads are pretty familiar with who's rocking now, and but Robert Glasper has collaborated with so many mainstream artists that it's allowed him to come to the forefront
Mhm.
and able to now introduce traditional jazz to an audience that probably wouldn't have listened to it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And even more so recently, there was one artist which I don't love their music, but I do like that they put jazz back on the charts. Their name was like Leve. I should know how to pronounce it, but it's like some Nordic language, and I just kind of, once you go into like north of like British, I don't know how to say the words. They're kind of scary. Um, but they've been doing like vocal jazz, and it started like chopping or topping charts, which jazz hasn't really done in like many years, which I think is interesting, but the sound of it is not really super jazzy in my opinion. I don't know
Are
if
they
you've heard of
close
it.
harmony singers, or how would you describe their music?
Uh like what a TikToker assumes a cocktail lounge sounds like,
Hmm.
which is kind of an insult from me. I'm not gonna lie, um, but it's not a bad voice. It's nice vocal jazz. Just I don't know, kind of a how do I say this? It's like if I ordered a burger and I asked for nothing on it. You've given me a nothing burger of jazz. There's nothing like interesting.
Yeah. Wow.
Um, man, I need to think. I should have prepared more questions.
Oh no, you're fine. I love just chopping it up about various jazz artists, even vocal jazz groups. I would say Take Six is someone that I gravitated to early on. Was Manhattan Transfer was back in the early mid '80s, and
Mm-hmm.
they it was two guys, two girls, close harmonies, and I feel like they brought that jazz sound to the mainstream. They're the real group, who is actually from Switzerland,
Mm-hmm.
and so they were around about 20 years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
so we were here in Indiana some time ago. But again, the close harmonizations, the dissonances, and things like that, really inspirational for me. So I consider that. I'm also inspired by other piano players, such as Joe Sample, who passed recently within the last 5 years or so,
Mm-hmm.
and he was part of the Headhunters group back in the 70s.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so Joe Sample's music was a great influence on me as well.
Yeah. This is a question that I find more funny than like actually necessary. Within the class, I think the most divisive jazz artist that we have talked about has been Sun Ra. Now,
So,
and I love Sun Ra, and I find it awesome. Have you listened to Sun Ra, and are you a hater or a lover?
I think I may have listened to a couple of tracks. It wasn't my personal jam. So it's kind of an acquired taste.
Yeah, yeah.
So for some people, Sun Ra is it, and for people like myself, I'm like, okay, that's interesting, and kind of go on to the next artist.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, what? Ah, so have you? I this is something I personally don't know. Have you recorded jazz albums? I think I know that you have recorded one before, but like, what is the process of like getting people in a studio and recording it?
Wow. Fortunately, I've got close friends who are in production. There's a gentleman named Tim Ragland, who was a former student of mine, who recorded my first smooth jazz CD called Smoothed Out. And we finished that project back in like 2015. And basically, he had studio equipment in his house. He used a lot of modern software, Logic. Um, there's other Omniverse, where you're able to lay down your percussion, your
Mm-hmm.
auxiliary sounds, echo effects, and so forth. And so I would bring the melody to the studio, and he, being a keyboard player, was able to kind of harmonize with that. I would give him a suggested bass line. We would put that in and so forth. So laying down tracks individually, and then would go back into the booth and play over that. And so we would listen to it and say, okay, we like this part of it. Can we go back and redo this? I'll punch you in this measure to redo that or whatever like that. So it was a fun process. Um, I think being inspired to write is another. I was in a hotel in Atlanta. Now, let me back up actually. Before that happened, I had gone to the Dominican Republic one year, maybe 2014, 2015, and I was inspired by the music and the culture and the food and the dancing. And I went to my hotel room and I heard this melody. And when I was in Atlanta once, the entire song just downloaded in my spirit right at that moment. So I got my voice recorder out on my phone and just sang the melody into it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw my friend Tim, I took it to him, and he says, "You know, we can do something with that." And so the song is called "Midnight Dance,"
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of a a salsa tune, and we recorded that, and it's on YouTube along with my other recordings as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Have you done much of that recording as of late, or have just things not lined up? Because I've heard you playing and like doing, not playing. That was the right word. I've heard you like, I think like writing melodies in general, and I've always wondered if that is building to something.
Um, Many times I think if you ever heard me play, sometimes I'm practicing improv, for example. So you may hear an accompaniment track in the background, and I would always kind of think to myself, okay, what would I do differently than the original melody?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would utilize scale patterns, various snippets from this song or that song, or inspired by different things, and experiment. And before you know it, I've composed, an improv or a new melody, and we'll establish that as like a new song. Or, for example, when I go and perform live, like I'm going to our local venue, the Jazz Kitchen, tomorrow night,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'll play the head of the song, which is the melody that everyone knows, and on the next round, I'll improv over the chord progressions, and so I have to be creative on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wasn't formally trained in jazz. When I went to school at Indiana University in Bloomington, I was a music ed major, and so it was hard to get into the jazz program, unless you were a jazz major or a performance major. And so I
Mm-hmm.
was very much, dependent upon what was on the written page. And it wasn't until about 2013 that I joined a jazz group or smooth jazz group called In the Moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked in with my horn, and they're like, okay, we're going to play this song. And I'm like, okay, where's the charts? It's like, there's no charts. You make your part. And so I had to use my ear for the first time. And so it was scary at first. And so I just kept the melodies very, minimal, a lot of repeated notes, just some rhythmic things, but then started to expand and experiment and stretch out. Before you know it, it really helped to improve my ear.
Mm-hmm.
And my creative side really came out, and that really helped me to do more writing after that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was a fantastic answer. Um, how do I follow that up? I think I have to transition to a different question.
That's okay. Yeah.
Um, Now, with like, there's been a lot of representation of jazz within like media, whether it be films or TV shows. What do you think is one of your favorite representations of jazz in media?
Oh wow, great question. Ah, again, movie soundtracks. I think in Spike Lee's movie X, which is about Malcolm X, Terrence Blanchard really brought and utilized jazz to paint certain moods and so forth. So you heard a lot of different melodies that were used to express a person in thought or a person in action. If someone's running, the music is there. Let's see, jazz in modern media. I'd say Key and Peele did a little skit about the two competing trumpet players, and you'd have to look that up on YouTube. But it gave a different audience an opportunity to hear jazz,
Mm-hmm.
played in a comedy skit, and so I thought that was kind of neat that they utilized the music for that.
There's always one more Key and Peele sketch that you haven't heard of, and there
Mm-hmm.
it's like an infinite ladder. You think you've seen them all, and someone will recommend you another one, and then
Yep.
you'll take another step up the rung of the ladder, and there's always just one more step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um, for me, I think it's a little cheesy, but I really do like Soul. And that was also, it came out at a really good time for me because that was like right around COVID. I was like in middle school in jazz band. I was like, whoa, this is
Yeah.
blowing my mind.
Yeah.
Um, but apparently, a lot of people like Whiplash, but I have not seen it.
Whiplash. Refresh my.
J.K. Simmons and Miles Teller, and J.K. Simmons is the um, director and is in a sort of abusive relationship where he is hitting the student or like abusing the student into becoming better.
Yes,
And
about the drummer.
yeah, the drummer.
Okay.
But I haven't seen it, and I've been wanting to watch it. But when I said I was gonna watch it, Danny did say I don't watch it with her, then she's gonna kill me. So I think I have to wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the time, you can look at Mo Better Blues,
Hmm.
and that's a Spike Lee movie, and it's all about jazz. Basically, it's kind of a retro future, look at a jazz quintet, and Denzel Washington plays the lead character, and he's kind of a womanizer, and so you get to see his backstory line, but also you hear all this incredible music featuring Terrence Blanchard and let's see, Branford Marsalis on saxophone.
Hmm.
He was featured as well. I think it was his quartet, as a
Hmm.
matter of fact, was playing in the background, and the other actors were imitating the person playing the bass, the piano, and saxophone. The drummer, ironically, was a real drummer. He was actually Branford Marsalis' drummer. And but Mo Better Blues is highly recommended for someone who wants to just kind of see jazz and the culture and the club scene. I think it's a real good representation.
Hmm. How this is, I think, one of my last questions because I'm gonna stop berating you with all these questions. I don't know.
Pointed, by the way.
How has jazz changed over your span of playing it? Like the culture of it, whether it be from in the clubs to like smaller venues or however, how has like the culture of jazz changed?
I would say I'm actually discovering it. Although I've been playing since 1981,
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm relatively new, and I say new like within the last 15 years of really exploring jazz as a performer.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so it's hard for me to say how have things evolved but I just recognize the various scenes.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the straight ahead jazz group, you've got the avant garde jazz, people that play, and it's very much free,
Mm-hmm.
where you've got the steady beat and so forth, and you hear these little blah, 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 versus things that are more melodic and singable. And then there's the jazz and poetry scene, where the jazz is kind of an accompaniment to the poetry.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've had a chance to actually sit in on one of those sets where I had to improv. I had my bass player, my drummer, and myself, and a keyboard player, where we had to improv and accentuate what the poet was, sharing at that moment. And so I don't know if it's much of an evolution than it is of discovering all the different scenes and sectors of jazz and the various communities that exist.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm quickly gonna just turn off my camera. Do you need a pass?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn off my camera. My roommate's walking through. It was a good choice to just bring my trumpet in, and it's been sitting under my bed. Because
Yeah.
I brought it on fall break, because I brought it back with me on fall break,
Good.
because A, I wanted to play at some point, and B, my Halloween costume was Chet Baker. Um,
And I actually wanted to mention, sometimes when people ask me questions at this part of my life, I might draw a blank, and
Mhm.
then later I realize, oh, I should have mentioned that person. But Chet Baker is one of my favorites too.
mhm.
Cool jazz player, the stage presence and so forth, and he's got a great story. But I enjoyed his music. Chuck Mangione from the '70s, wrote a lot of great melodic, singable, memorable, tunes. You had Herb Alpert, who was like in the pop jazz,
Mhm.
and so there's a lot of artists in the trumpet realm, that help bring jazz to mainstream listeners.
Mhm. I'm gonna jump into I'm gonna say it's my final question, but I'm gonna keep saying that, but because I just really am enjoying the flow of the conversation.
Same here.
Um, and what is like an artist that you really want to work with?
Whether they're national artists or local or
Any.
oh my, who would I like to work with? I'm gonna step out and say Layla Hathaway.
Layla Hathaway.
Yes,
Related
and,
to Anne?
no. Layla Hathaway is the daughter of Donnie Hathaway, who was known for This Christmas, among many of his tunes.
Mm-hmm.
But that was his daughter. But she has collaborated with Robert Glasper and other artists as well. But she's somebody that I would really love to work with. Take Six again, the jazz group. I don't even know if I could ever be on that level, but those guys are just incredible. Give them a listen when you get a chance.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
When I said Anne, related to Anne, my roommate leaned over and whispered, Donnie. So
So he knows.
he knows. He's on that jazz. He's all about that jazz.
Yep. That's awesome. That is awesome.
This is something I've been talking with my professor about, which is the correlation between jazz and all these other genres that perpetrate what has become popular music, not pop music, but popular, whether it be like the sampling of hip hop or the background of like R&B. And I was just kind of wondering some of your thoughts on like jazz's influences on those genres.
I would have the first artist or group that comes to mind is Diggable Planets.
Mm-hmm.
And they famously had a tune called Cool Like That, or The Rebirth of Slick is the actual title of the song, but the hook is Cool Like That.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It came around like 91 or so, but they were one of the first to really incorporate, jazz, pure jazz, into the background of one of their songs. A Tribe Called Quest famously used a lot of jazz, especially on their Low End Theory, which was their soft album, maybe their second or third album, but they made jazz really popular. And there's a great YouTube video out that plays the original jazz song, and then they show how it was incorporated into the hip hop, piece.
The sample breakdown.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so what like Q-Tip would do is he would take snippets from different songs and merge those to create a new sample or for the background of a new song, and which I thought was great.
Especially like, which I might be wrong on information. They did this a lot on the Low End Theory, which is their sophomore album. Also on Midnight Marauders.
Yeah.
I like asking this. Which of the two do you like more? Because I think those are the two main Tribe albums that people talk about. Which one are you more personally akin to?
I like Midnight Marauders because of the way it initially hit.
Yeah.
It was raw and it was fun and so forth. But Low End Theory sounded like they really put more thought into it. They really, refined it, and I thought from track to track, it had that kind of warm connection. And so there were a lot more jazz, of course, throughout, and they were very, very purposeful and intentional about incorporating, good music and the balance and the mixes and so forth. So I'd have to say Low End Theory by hair.
Yeah.
So, hey, yeah.
They have a very good discography from like the People's Instinctive, and that one goes on really long. The title's really long, and then
So their first album was the People's album, and then Midnight Marauders, and then Low End Theory.
I just double checked this. I think it's Low End Theory is second, 1991.
1991 for sure.
Yes, and the Midnight Marauders is 1993.
Now, what album did Can I Kick It?
That was the first one, People's Instinctive.
And
Uh,
what year did that album come out?
oh, it says 1990, but I've seen numbers that have said like 1989.
Right. So it's like we got to find out where the People's album and then the Midnight Marauders, that must have been very close because Left My Wallet and El Segundo was on that first one as well.
Mm-hmm.
Bonita Applebum was on that album.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, am I mixing it up? Okay. No, I'm not. Yeah. And then I don't know if you listened to the 2016 album. We've got it from here.
yes, I've got that. I keep that in my car.
I love that record. I think it's like very rarely do groups get to have a like swan song of an album,
Mhm.
or very rarely do they know that this is the last one. And I find immense, not joy, I don't think that's the right word, but I do find something wonderful about they knew it was the last one. They went off so well, and how many groups get to say that like they didn't end because like I mean they ended because one of the members died, but they did they went out on their own terms with this
Yeah.
album that featured so many like modern artists, whether it be the Kendrick feature, the the feature of the guy that I don't want to name.
Andre 3000's on there as well.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah. I'll have to admit, being a Tribe fan, and you kind of have this sound in your ear. So when I first played the CD, track one, of course, is out the gate with it, and then two, you had to kind of listen to and so forth. But I found that all my favorite tracks were the odd number ones, 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 were my favorite tracks, and the even numbers they had to grow on me a little bit, and say, okay, this is Tribe, this is a different sound, different approach. So, you weren't going to get the Midnight Marauders sound on that last album.
yeah, but I really like We the People, track number 2,
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
which that was the first one where I was like, ooh, ooh.
Yeah.
But I think jazz rap is very interesting, and there are obviously people who are doing it modern day, not just Tribe. Whether it be from uh, Denzel Curry had a jazz rap album. I This is a smaller artist I love, but McKinley Dixon. He has a wonderful album called Beloved Paradise Jazz. It's around 30 minutes and short, sweet, wonderful production. I think he's from Richmond, Virginia. Um, but I love the crossover of like jazz and hip hop. I mean, the obvious one is the Roots, but I've somehow avoided it saying it this whole time.
Yeah, the Roots are incredible. Questlove, of course, and Black Thought, incredible rappers.
Mm-hmm.
Most Def is another. He and Talib Kweli,
Yeah, yeah, Black Star.
Black Star, yes, sir. I thought that was a great use of jazz in their recordings as well.
That whole Chicago backpacking scene where uh, the guy who I don't want to name came out of.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, he's like the Voldemort of hip hop to me.
Or KW?
What? Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Did a lot of really good records and a lot of bad ones currently.
I liked his early work,
Yeah.
and I couldn't name a single song of his from the last, I don't know, handful of years. But his first two projects were like it.
Yeah, yeah. What's a now? I have it right here, so I'm just gonna grab it. I think my favorite jazz rap album is "To Pimp a Butterfly" by Kendrick Lamar.
Oh wow, I'm not familiar with that one.
You don't agree with that one?
No, I'm not familiar with it actually.
I, it's the whole, not the whole thing, but it's very, very well produced jazz rap. Very experimental album in general. The whole thing kind of comes down to this poem that he's writing to Tupac, and then they chop up a Tupac interview, and he's like doing all that. It's wonderful. I don't want to become the stereotype of white man over explaining Kendrick Lamar, which is a very predominant stereotype within his fan base. But it's a fantastic album that I can't recommend enough.
I'll have to check that out.
I lost my train of thought. I don't know. I think jazz is the most influential genre within American culture, and it will continue to affect all genres going forward as it has. And I'm excited to see how that happens. And I don't really know how to end interviews.
Well, as one who used to do TV for years, I was on a local station. I don't know if I'm allowed to say which one, but it was a CBS affiliate.
Mm-hmm.
And so I conducted about 150 interviews, and I would have my 10 questions and then my closeout, thing about how can people, get to find you and your music.
Oh, like the roll out the red carpet, Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to ask that.
Yes. Where can people find your music?
Yes. I am on Spotify and Apple Music under Jefri Payne, Jefri Payne. And so you can hear all of my music there. I've got YouTube videos, of course. And again, let's see, Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, primarily those are the main streaming websites.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for the joining this interview. It was really, really fun to talk to you about this.
I do as well.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your Easter Sunday.
Excellent. You too as well.
Thank you.